Have you ever had a dream so big, so life-changing, that you'd risk everything for it, only to have the people you love most turn their backs on you when you needed them the most? That's exactly what happened to me when I decided to move abroad for the opportunity of a lifetime. And my entire family, my parents, my siblings, even my closest cousins, banded together to boycott my decision, leaving me feeling more alone than I've ever felt in my life. I'm talking about a betrayal that cuts so deep, it made me question whether family is really forever, or if chasing your own path means sacrificing the bonds you thought were unbreakable. This isn't just a story about packing up and leaving. It's a raw, emotional journey through rejection, self-doubt, and the desperate search for strength when the people who should have your back are the ones holding you down. From the moment I made my choice to the heartbreaking fallout with my family, I'm going to walk you through every tear, every memory, and every hard-won step forward. Stick with me for this long, messy ride, because I'm still figuring out if I made the right call, and I need your help to decide if following your dreams is worth losing the family you've always known. Let's dive in. My name's Ryan, and I'm 29 years old, hailing from the small, tight-knit town of Asheville, North Carolina, nestled in the Blue Ridge Mountains where the air always smells faintly of pine and the community feels like it's stuck in a simpler time. Asheville is a quirky, artsy place, full of local breweries, street musicians, and winding mountain roads, a town where everyone knows your name and your business, whether you like it or not. I grew up in a modest split-level house on the outskirts, near the French Broad River, where my childhood was spent hiking with my dad, fishing with my older brother, and helping my mom in her tiny flower garden out back. I've always been a dreamer, sketching out plans for a bigger life in my notebooks. But for most of my 20s, I stayed put, working as a graphic designer for a local ad agency, living in a rented loft downtown near Pack Square, content enough, but always itching for something more. Something beyond the familiar fog-covered peaks I saw every morning. The emotional conflict that's been tearing me apart isn't just about my family's rejection. It's the gut-wrenching clash between my desperate need to chase my own future and the suffocating guilt of breaking away from the people who raised me, loved me, and expected me to stay close forever. The key players in this mess are my parents, my dad, a gruff, retired mechanic who's never left North Carolina, and my mom, a sweet but stubborn elementary school teacher who lives for family dinners on Sundays, and my older brother, Caleb, 32, a contractor who's always been the golden child, staying local, marrying young, and giving my parents grandkids to dote on. The conflict exploded when I got an offer to work as a lead designer for a tech startup in Berlin, Germany, a dream job with a salary I couldn't refuse, a chance to live in a vibrant, historic city, and an opportunity to grow in ways Asheville could never offer. But when I told my family, their reaction wasn't pride or excitement. It was anger, disappointment, and a unified front to convince me I was making the biggest mistake of my life, abandoning them for a selfish fantasy. That rejection felt like a punch to the chest, leaving me torn between the life I wanted and the family I thought I'd always have by my side, wondering if I was betraying them or if they were betraying me by refusing to support my dreams. Memories of my life in Asheville flood my mind as I sit in my half-packed apartment, boxes stacked around me, the distant hum of traffic on Patton Avenue filtering through the window, each recollection a bittersweet stab as I prepare to leave everything behind. I think back to lazy summer evenings at the Biltmore estate, wandering the sprawling gardens with Caleb, cracking jokes about being fancy, while sneaking sips from a shared flask, feeling like we'd always be each other's best friend. I remember Mom's face lighting up every Christmas when I'd come home with little handmade gifts, her hugs smelling of cinnamon and warmth, telling me how proud she was to have her boys close. I can still see Dad teaching me to change a tire in our gravel driveway, his calloused hands guiding mine, grumbling about hard work, but smiling when I got it right, a quiet bond one thought nothing could break. Now, walking alone through the River Arts District, past colorful murals and bustling galleries, I ache for those simpler times, wondering how a single decision could turn all that love into resentment, how my family could see my dream as a personal attack rather than a chance to grow. The unraveling of my family's support started about 6 months ago, in the crisp fall of 2022, when the leaves in Asheville were turning fiery shades of orange and red, and I got the email that would change everything. I was sitting at a corner table in Early Girl Eatery, a cozy diner downtown, sipping black coffee and scrolling through my inbox on a rainy morning, when I saw the offer from the Berlin startup, full relocation package, a visa sponsorship, and a role that felt tailor-made for my skills. My heart raced with excitement, the kind I hadn't felt in years, imagining cobblestone streets, late-night design sessions in trendy cafes, and a life I'd only seen in movies. I couldn't wait to tell my family, picturing their cheers, maybe even a celebratory dinner at one of our favorite spots like Tupelo Honey. But when I broke the news that evening at my parents' house, the air thick with the smell of Mom's pot roast, their faces fell. Dad's jaw tightened, Mom's eyes welled up, and Caleb just stared at me like I'd slapped him, the silence heavier than the Blue Ridge fog outside. They didn't congratulate me. Instead, they launched into reasons why I couldn't go. Too far, too risky. What about family? What about them needing me here? Each word piling on guilt until I felt like I was drowning in it. My dreams suddenly a burden I hadn't anticipated. The weeks that followed were a slow, painful fracture, as my family's boycott of my decision became a coordinated effort, turning Asheville's familiar streets into a battlefield of unspoken tension. Mom started calling daily, her voice trembling as she'd beg me to reconsider, bringing up every sacrifice they'd made for me, from paying for art classes as a kid to supporting me through college at UNC Asheville. Dad, who's never been big on words, just stopped talking to me altogether, avoiding eye contact when I'd visit, his disappointment louder than any lecture as he'd tinker in his garage while I stood awkwardly nearby. Caleb, who I thought would at least try to understand, took it the hardest, sending me long texts about how I was running away from responsibility, how his kids would grow up without their uncle, how I was choosing strangers over blood. I'd walk along the Asheville Urban Trail, past historic plaques and bustling tourists, feeling like an outsider in my own hometown, their words echoing in my head, making me question if I was selfish for wanting more, or if they were selfish for trying to clip my wings. The emotional toll was crushing, seeping into every part of my life in Asheville as I tried to hold on to my resolve while my family's rejection gnawed at me, the mountain air no longer a comfort but a reminder of what I was losing. I'd lie awake in my loft at night, staring at the exposed brick walls, replaying their reactions, wondering if I'd misread our bond all these years, if love always came with strings I hadn't seen. I'd sketch designs at my desk, the Berlin Jobs logo mock-ups scattered around, but my hands would shake with doubt, their voices in my head telling me I'd fail, that I'd end up alone in a foreign country with no one to turn to. My friends noticed the change. Drinks at Wicked Weed Brewing turned into me zoning out, unable to fake excitement when all I felt was guilt, and I started skipping our usual trivia nights, hiding in my apartment with takeout and Netflix, trying to escape the weight of their judgment. Even the mountains, usually my refuge on hikes up to Mount Pisgah, felt oppressive, their vastness mocking my shrinking confidence as I wrestled with whether to stay for them or go for me. The unexpected twist came about 3 months into the standoff, on a chilly December evening, when I stumbled on a truth that flipped my understanding of my family's boycott, leaving me more conflicted than ever. I'd gone to my parents' house to drop off some Christmas decorations I'd found while packing, hoping for a small olive branch, the snow dusting the ground outside, holiday lights twinkling on their porch. Mom let me in, her face tired, and as I set the box down in the living room, I noticed a stack of medical bills on the coffee table, half hidden under a magazine. My stomach dropped as I glimpsed the words treatment plan and ongoing care for Dad, dated months back. When I asked her about it, her eyes filled with tears, and she admitted Dad had been diagnosed with early-stage Parkinson's earlier that year, something they'd kept from me because they didn't want to burden me. The boycott wasn't just about me leaving. It was their fear of losing my support during a crisis they hadn't even shared, a desperate attempt to keep me close when they felt their world slipping. Standing there, the familiar smell of pine from their Christmas tree mixing with my shock, I felt a rush of anger for being kept in the dark, guilt for not noticing their struggle, and a deeper ache knowing my dream was now tied to their pain in ways I hadn't imagined. In the months after that revelation, I tried to navigate this new reality, building a fragile balance in Asheville while grappling with my decision, the winter cold settling over the town like the uncertainty in my heart. I sat down with Dad one evening in his garage, the smell of oil and metal grounding me. And for the first time in weeks, he spoke, his voice gruff but broken, admitting he was scared, not just of the disease, but of me being too far to help if things got worse. Mom and I had long talks over coffee at their kitchen table, her hands wringing a dish towel, as she apologized for the pressure, but begged me to understand their fear of facing this alone. Caleb, still bitter, softened just enough to admit he'd been hard on me because he couldn't handle the thought of carrying the family burden solo. I started helping more, driving Dad to appointments at Mission Hospital, researching support groups, trying to show I cared even as I packed for Berlin. But the tension lingered, my departure date looming like a storm cloud over the Smoky Mountains, each day a reminder that staying felt like giving up on myself, while leaving felt like abandoning them. Reflecting on my past with my family became a near-daily ritual, as I tried to make sense of my choice, especially on quiet drives along the Blue Ridge Parkway, the rolling hills a backdrop to my tangled thoughts. I'd think about the time Dad and I rebuilt an old Chevy in high school, late nights in the garage bonding over wrenches and classic rock, his rare laughs a treasure I'd held on to. I remembered Mom's pride at my college graduation, her camera flashing as she cried happy tears, telling everyone how her boy was going places, a memory now soured by the irony of her fighting those very places. I'd recall camping trips with Caleb at Black Mountain, setting up tents under starlit skies, promising we'd always have each other's backs, a promise that felt broken now as I faced this crossroads. Sitting at scenic overlooks, the vastness of the mountains stretching out, I wrestled with whether I'd been blind to their needs, or if they'd been blind to mine, wondering if family meant staying no matter what, or if love could stretch across oceans and still hold. As time crept on, Asheville's winter giving way to a tentative spring in 2023, I built a shaky plan forward, though the unresolved pain with my family lingered like the morning mist over the mountains. I finalized my move to Berlin, booking a one-way flight for late April, my apartment lease ending, boxes shipped ahead, each step a quiet rebellion against their boycott, but also a stab of guilt knowing Dad's condition hung over us. I started therapy online, talking through my anger and grief with a counselor, trying to unpack years of family expectations versus my own desires, each session leaving me raw but clearer on why I needed this move for my soul, even if it hurt. I spent more time with them in those final weeks, Sunday dinners at their house, awkward but tender, helping Caleb with a home renovation project, trying to rebuild small bridges before I left. Asheville's blooming dogwoods and bustling spring festivals felt like a goodbye, each familiar spot. The drum circle at Pritchard Park, coffee at Double D's, tinged with nostalgia and loss as I prepared to board a plane, unsure if I was running toward freedom or away from duty. The grind of holding onto my dream while carrying this family baggage felt like hiking up Mount Mitchell with a boulder on my back, each step forward shadowed by a past I couldn't fully leave behind. I'd spend evenings at my favorite local haunts like the Admiral, nursing a beer alone, replaying their faces when I told them I was still going. The mix of resignation and hurt in their eyes a weight I couldn't shake. I started journaling, sitting on my tiny balcony overlooking downtown, writing down memories of family barbecues, Dad's bad jokes, Mom's lullabies from when I was a kid, trying to hold on to the good while forgiving the bad. I took long drives to Lake Lure, the quiet water a mirror to my indecision, asking myself if I'd regret this move in a year, if I'd call Berlin home only to feel hollow without them. I even considered delaying the move, just for a few months, to help Dad settle into treatment, but the startup's deadline loomed, and I knew stalling might mean losing the chance forever, a risk I wasn't sure I could take. The weight of judgment, both my family's boycott and my own second-guessing, didn't fade easily, even as I tried to stand firm, each memory of our shared life a reminder of how fragile loyalty can be. I'd run into old neighbors at the Asheville Farmers Market, their casual, "heard you're leaving us," comments a minefield, forcing me to smile while inside I churned with doubt about whether I was doing the right thing. I started avoiding certain family spots, like the old fishing hole near the Swannanoa River where Dad and I spent countless weekends, opting for solitary hikes on the Appalachian Trail, where the rugged paths let me think without feeling their disappointment in every glance. I'd sit at trailheads, watching the sunrise over the mountains, wondering if I'd ever shake the feeling of letting them down, or if their fear had redefined our bond in ways I couldn't repair. I even thought about writing them a long letter, explaining my heart, my need for this, but the words felt inadequate against the reality of Dad's illness and their unspoken plea for me to stay, leaving me torn between continents and convictions. Now, as I sit here in my nearly empty apartment, the last of my belongings packed, the faint sound of a busker playing guitar drifting up from the street below, I'm still wrestling with what this move means for me and the family I'm leaving behind. I've got a life waiting in Berlin, a job that could redefine my career, a city full of history and culture I've only dreamed of, a chance to be someone beyond the small-town kid from Asheville. But knowing Dad's facing Parkinson's, knowing Mom and Caleb are scared of handling it without me, has me questioning if I'm making the right choice, if my dream is worth the distance it's putting between us, or if I'm just running from a responsibility I should shoulder. I hate the thought of them feeling abandoned, of missing milestones in my nieces' and nephews' lives, of not being there if Dad's condition worsens. But I can't ignore the pull of this opportunity, the way it feels like my one shot at a life I've always wanted. I've got a flight in 3 days, and I keep wondering if I'll board it with resolve or regret, if I can build a new home while still holding space for the one I'm leaving. So, I'm turning to you guys, because I'm at a turning point and I could really use some outside perspective. If you were in my shoes, would you board that plane to Berlin, chasing a dream job and a new life? Even if it means risking your family's trust and being far away during a crisis like Dad's illness? Or would you stay in Asheville, prioritizing family over personal ambition, even if it means sacrificing a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and maybe resenting them for it down the line? How do you balance the love and duty you feel for your family with the need to carve your own path, especially when their fear and your guilt make every choice feel like a loss? I want to believe there's a way to have both, to build a life abroad while keeping them close in spirit, but I'm not sure how to bridge that gap without breaking something irreparable. Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I'm honestly torn, and I'd love to know what you'd do if you were standing where I am right now, wondering if following your dreams can coexist with family, or if some choices force you to leave pieces of yourself behind for good.